How you doing? This your Wednesday guy, Khaiden here, and pretty much we're going to be talking about toxic masculinity and the stigma that trans guys play into that. One of the next, I would say this, the next videos that we have for the upcoming weeks are going to be very interesting. One of the topics that I really wanted to touch on is one of them that I brought up, so I'm really excited to talk about that. And some news that we had that's cool, unfortunately, is not with us. I wish him the best of luck with all of his future endeavors, and definitely welcoming Kai temporarily back to the page. Um, However, this week we're going to be talking about toxic masculinity, if I haven't said it yet, and just a few things that trans guys play into that, as well as some of the pros and cons that we can kind of see. That because I'm gonna be honest, some of the opinions that I have, especially with transitioning, are different. So I kind of look at topics a little bit differently than some of the other brothers or some people that are within our community. So when I looked up, because I didn't really hear of the term toxic masculinity, I've never really heard of that term. I've heard of it, but I've never had it been used on me. Therefore, I've been put in situations since transitioning where some things with this topic are starting to make sense. And one of the best things about transitioning and growing as an individual is you can actually sit down, have an open, honest conversation with self, and be like, yeah, that was something that you were doing. That was something that you're starting to notice and you're starting to work through. So, and another thing that I really wanted to touch on is now, guys, because I'm going to be out of school for the summer, so my videos are probably going to be little bit longer, and they're going to be a little bit more detailed, so that you guys can get a full picture of who I am as an individual. So, especially like with this topic, when I first started taking tea, there was a lot of changes, a lot of mood swings, a lot of libido influx. There was body changes that I didn't know was going to happen, and some things that I was aware of but wasn't ready to handle at that point. So, because I wasn't made aware of certain things, because every trans guy's transition is different. So one of the things I really wanted to touch on is aggression and anger, especially with like toxic masculinity, and how does it play a role with trans guys. A lot of the stigma comes from testosterone will make you angry, and from my personal experience, testosterone didn't make me angry. It made my tolerance for certain things very low, very low. Low to where I have to, pick it up a little bit, because I was going off for everything, and it could be the hormones. And this was like the very first I've noticed that I did it, and I noticed that it was one of those things where I was just like, oh, that wasn't that big. Like, it didn't need to blow up that big. And then like, I was very impulsive, very, very impulsive. I didn't take time to think things out. I was very just emotional, like literally strifling my emotions all over the place. What I felt at the moment, that's what I went off of, and that's how I dealt with everything. With growth and just being, transitioning longer, I'm starting to see where I'm at that plateau period, where I'm starting to see what my personality is really like, what I do like, what I don't like, what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate. Some of the things that, that guys go through and that guys experience. Because not a lot of people, and especially, before, I thought guys were lying on the libido thing. I didn't never knew it could be this bad. It's bad. Like, it's not where it's like, oh, it's a little change. No, it's a huge change, big change, real big, 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 big change. And then another thing is like my anger and aggression. I used to be able to like hold things in for months and years, now it's like if something happens that day, that second, I have to address it. Um, Tying again into my tolerance for certain things being very low. Um, and I'm definitely not saying, oh, this is an excuse. It's definitely not an excuse. It's one of those things where you sit down and you think about the things that you did, and you try to, I try to help you guys out by saying, okay, look, this is what I did, but this is why I was also doing it. Some of the things that trans guys do at the very beginning. Now, I'm not saying if a guy is 5 years on T, 3 years on T, I'm more than sure that they're at a very plateau period where if the stuff that they're doing, if that's what they're doing, they're probably going to continue doing that. Granted, like I said, there is an adjustment period, and we are all made aware of this adjustment period where your emotions and everything, and even if you have a spouse and you tie in the spouses into it, the spouse has to be aware that you're going to be emotional. You're going to be, like the influx of different emotions, the influx of this new libido, everything that you have to know for self, especially if there's a spouse involved. Please make it aware to them, because a lot of the stigma with trans guys playing into some toxic masculinity features characteristics are the fact that some people don't really truly understand the full process and the full pretty much the full process of transitioning. And then a lot of people don't understand that some of the things that that you have to go through as a trans man are some of the things that you can't stop. You can't help. That there's some things you just can't. You can learn how to control those things, but however, those are things you can't say, okay, stop, just stop, libido, stop. Like, it won't work. It's just there. It'll go away. It'll come back. It'll stay for 30 minutes, or it'll be there and it'll stay for 5 minutes, or it'll be there for like a second, and then you'll be like, oh, that's nice, whatever. It's just some things that just they happen. And granted, once the longer you do this, the better you're going to get at controlling some things. Now, how does this play into trans guys playing a role in toxic masculinity? It comes to when I see guys who are like 5 years on T, 10 years on T, still doing some of the things that, guys in their adjustment period are doing. Having their emotions all over the place, yada, yada, yada. And it may be because my therapist, going to therapy sessions, he informed me, it was like, if you are having such a hormonal imbalance for an extended amount of time, there may be some psychological issues, or there just may be some thyroid, or anything could be offsetting that person to where they're overly aggressive or overly sexually influenced or overly, however, misogynistic, or it may be something causing that. Or it can just be, I don't know the term for it, where men will use the fact that the voices are very deep and very just like scary to shut down other men or other women. I don't know the term for it. However, I do that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. It happens, and it's a huge problem. It's probably one of the worst problems I have since started transition, because it's like, oh, I have something to say. I want to say it before I forget. And in my head, that's what I'm thinking, but I'm not really realizing that you just interrupted a person from talking. And half the time it's just like, one of those things where you're just like, oh, I got something to say, versus, oh, hey, look, let me, and that can be misconstrued with some people. Now, granted, it is a problem. A lot of trans guys do go through this, and it's one of those things where you would like to work on it. And then, like, after, I'm gonna say now, like, now I'm getting to that point where I'm like, oh, okay, libido, man, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna continue about my day. Or if I get angry, where I'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna go take a drive, or I'm gonna go take a walk, or hey, look, can you let me think about it for a minute and I'll get back to you. It's where I'm starting to get back to where I'm seeing that I'm starting to revert back to some of the same things I did before. I'm more logical with my thinking. I don't do things out of impulse. And I would say a lot of the things that people are saying, oh my gosh, you were just so toxically masculine, or not actually saying it to me, but saying, oh man, you're so aggressive. Oh man, you're this. Oh man, you're like just so, you know. I would say, guys, for some guys it may be an adjustment period where you just need to let your hormones level themselves out, and especially if you're not taking your shots regular, that can really throw things off for us. You know, it can really throw things off. But what's another thing I wanted to touch on my handy dandy? I don't have my glasses on. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk on. Feminine trans guys. Just go out and blatantly say it. For most people would put it, if people had to put me in a category, they'd be like, oh, you're a masculine trans guy. You're not a really feminine trans guy. So they would put me in this box, and then I would have all these cisgender rules, and then the feminine trans guys, they have feminine features, which to me isn't anything wrong with that, or anything that a problem. It's not a problem with me. Granted, some people may look at you differently because it's like, oh, you was here, why you just didn't stay here if you wanted to, do that. And I'm just like, some people just don't understand sex, gender, and sexual orientation, gender, and sexual orientation. Some people don't understand that those are different sectors and different, pathways. I don't know. Like, for this one, it was kind of like a very bland topic, guys, for me. Because it was like one of those things where I'm currently working through this toxic. Because I never knew it to be toxic. It was just one of those things where I knew there was an adjustment period. That's how I was always, portrayed to me. Like, oh, you're going to have this adjustment period. And after sitting down with my endocrinologist and my therapist, they were just like, they're going to be this long adjustment period where you're going to do things impulsive. You're going to revert back to being childlike. Your brain is going to be childlike because it has to go back and incorporate this new hormone and drive things like you're 12, or like you're literally 12 or 13, however, whatever the age is for puberty now. 9, I've heard. So, but yeah, those are just a few things I wanted to talk about. If any of you guys wanted to, message me about things that you're working through, look, the aggression, guys, I get it. I get it. Some things are just crazy where you just have to address them. I would just say definitely try to, snip that in a butt and kind of work on it, because it can put you in a hazardous situation, and you wouldn't want that, especially because I use mostly male facilities when I'm out. I don't use female facilities because I got the cops called on me before, so I'm not even about to do that. Like, no, bruh, no, and especially with like my ID and everything changing and stuff. It's not about to go down like that. But I really don't have much. I have much to say, but I don't think it's really helpful. I hope it was helpful for you guys. How about I'll make, in another 6 months or so, I'll make another video like responding to this video or something, just so that we can see the growth that everybody has to go through. Because there were some videos, guys, that I did on this channel. When I did them, I was just like, whoa, I must have been tired. I was rushing, and that's what I'm starting to try to do. I'm starting to not like crunch my videos, as well as I'm trying to, I'm working on getting them out on time, but like during the day when most people are up. However, it's been about 15 minutes almost. Well, it's the end of Wednesday. Y'all get to see Sean tomorrow. Definitely follow the page. Make sure you follow all the brothers if you don't. Once again, I'm Khaiden. I'm your Wednesday guy, and I'm out.